The man ignored the white sailor's warning and dove into the ocean for a swim. An officer witnessed this and immediately ordered the fastest swimmer to bring him back, because on this American warship, black sailors were forbidden from swimming in the sea. They could only stand by and watch the white sailors have their fun. But this man had openly defied the rules. Realizing the danger he was in, he picked up his pace and left the white sailor far behind. Every black sailor on deck spontaneously erupted in cheers for him. The captain witnessed all of this and, impressed by his swimming talent and courage, recommended him for the Naval Academy. That's how Carl became the first black student in the Academy's history. However, when he stepped onto campus, he was met with contempt from his white classmates. On his very first night, an instructor deliberately threw water on him and used special training as an excuse to make him get up for drills. The instructor then blasted him with a high-pressure water hose, using every tactic possible to force Carl to drop out voluntarily. But Carl refused to give up. One day during a diving drill, a sailor's oxygen line got stuck and his life hung in the balance. In that critical moment, only Carl was willing to step up. At this life-or-death juncture, he gave his own oxygen line to his comrade in distress. The comrade was saved, but the next day, the instructor awarded the Medal of Honor to the white sailor who had abandoned his teammate. Faced with this injustice, Carl simply walked away calmly. His composure and grace made the white sailor who received the medal feel utterly ashamed. The night before the final evaluation, the instructor approached Carl again, still trying to convince him to quit. But Carl firmly refused. Enraged, the instructor smashed the radio Carl's father had left him and issued a warning. The next day, Carl showed up for the evaluation anyway. Once the dive test began, the instructor deliberately cut open Carl's tool bag, scattering tools across the ocean floor. Soon, all the other students completed the test and surfaced. Only Carl remained underwater, searching for those parts until deep into the night. Everyone assumed he wouldn't resurface, so they pulled up the safety line. But what came up with the rope was a fully assembled prop. Finally, after 9 grueling hours, Carl completed the evaluation and struggled back to shore. Looking at this guy who never gave up, the instructor seemed to see his younger self. The instructor finally announced he had passed. Carl graduated successfully. As he was about to leave, he saw the radio, now repaired. Carl understood this was the instructor's way of apologizing. Years later, Carl had become a senior diver. However, during a salvage operation, he saved 2 young divers, but his thigh was severely injured. Though he survived, he lost a leg and was told he would never dive again. But Carl learned there had been cases of disabled individuals regaining their diving qualifications. Carl insisted on completing rehabilitation training in 14 weeks to participate in the evaluation for disabled divers to regain their qualifications. The coach found out and personally trained Carl. Carl worked hard to complete each day's rehabilitation training. On evaluation day, everyone showed up as promised. To make things difficult for Carl, the naval officers brought out 400 pounds of diving equipment and demanded that Carl put on the gear and walk 12 steps by himself, a standard even for elite divers. But Carl was used to tough challenges along the way. He stepped forward 1 step at a time. Though the pain made him grit his teeth, he didn't stop. On the 8th step, everyone heard the prosthetic leg crack. Tears mixed with frustration poured down his face. At that moment, the coach stood in front of him, encouraging him the whole way. Finally, Carl completed the most important 12 steps of his life in front of everyone. Carl's perseverance moved everyone present. This film is based on a true story. Follow me to watch more exciting